Hey guys, welcome to Coaching with Chris. Happy Tuesday. Everybody's coming off the Memorial. We call this Memorial Day hangover. So how are you doing out there? Please make a comment, like, share. This is how we're growing this. My heart is to be able to help originators across the country maybe do this little bit more to be able to help in your production. You can't take everything that you learn from here, but could you take 10% to be able to help in your business today? Guys, today I love interviewing. Not only did he come from retail and transition to a broker owner, but also won NAM New Broker of the Year. He continues to be able to work. He's got big goals. He's got a great team. He's doing fantastic work out inside our communities. And so I think we've got a lot to learn. It's excited to hear his journey, where he's come and what he's working on. So Ryan, are you here?
I am here, Chris. So great to be here. Thank you for having me. And first of all, I just wanted to thank you and your team at Windsor Mortgage for doing such a fantastic work. Like you mentioned, we made a transition to a brokerage 2 years ago, and finding a great wholesale partner was our top priority. And Windsor has been our top bank we've worked with because of the excellent team, account managers, underwriters, closers, and the exceptional service you give. So I just wanted to start off by thanking you for that.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. I told the AUs today, I go, look, if you never want to get stranded, then maybe we could be a good partner. I feel like there's some companies out there that keep their loan officers stranded. And then I know what it feels like being a broker. I knew what it feels like to be close to closing and not knowing. And I freaking hate that feeling.
It's a terrible feeling. It is.
It's a terrible feeling. And, it's not like you can just say, well, I'll just fund it and we'll figure it out later. It doesn't work that way. And so I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So you started in this wonderful world of mortgage somehow. Usually, if you're like me, it was an accident, and then it gobbled me up and I fell in love. But how did you find mortgage?
Yeah, so I got started actually in 2004. I'm kind of aging myself right now, but I started with a wholesale lender. Actually, it was during the subprime days, the boom. I closed a large amount of deals without ever looking at a pay stub, because that's, at that time in 2004, it was a lot of 80/20 interest only deals out there. I'm sure you remember those days.
I do.
And that's how I got started. Actually, it was just kind of the industry a lot of people were getting into. Yeah, I had a friend who was in the business and he got me into it. And so between 2004 and 2009, I was a wholesale account executive through one of those companies. Yeah. So the company actually, they made the transition from doing subprime to more, FHA, conventional kind of lending. But the owner of that company, they pulled the plug in 2009. And at that time, I decided to make the transition. I called up my friend who was a loan officer. I said, can I join the company you're a part of? I want to start producing. So I got great training being a wholesale account executive. We saw a lot of loans. So it really helped me make that transition from, wholesale into production right away and kind of hit the ground running.
Well, and then back then, we didn't have all the technology. So you remember reading rate sheets and guidelines where it was like, you had to literally use your finger or a ruler to make sure you'd got it right, or you could price a loan wrong. You could grab a wrong guideline. Like, we didn't have the things that we have today to be able to make sure we could find the right matches.
Oh yeah, I had the ruler on my desk too, so I wouldn't make those pricing mistakes and faxing 1003s to price out and everything. Yeah, we've come a long way, definitely.
So you started off AE and then transitioned in. You started off as a retail loan officer, right? And what market, just so everybody understands, what market are you in, Ryan?
Yeah, I live in Gilbert, Arizona. So basically the whole Phoenix metro area is where I work. And yeah, I worked for a mortgage company that was a subsidiary of a bank. So I was under their federal registration. So we did kind of work everywhere, but so I was able to do loans out of state without having to be licensed in those states, which was nice. But 90% of my deals were in Arizona.
Sure. Well, what a great city. I like your city. I do sneak down there a little bit when it's 30 below up here. I got to get down to Scottsdale. But so then there had to become a point in time, Ryan, where your brain was like, is there a better way to originate loans? Like, Do you remember a moment? Do you remember the time? Was it a slow process? I think listening, I have a lot of retail loan officers that listen to this, as long as and brokers, but there was a time where you were like, maybe I could do this different.
Yeah, definitely there was. From 2009 to 2012, it was definitely a difficult time to get into the industry, what people tell me. But at the same time, it was kind of a great time because most people were kind of leaving as we were hitting the Great Recession. Mortgage prices were dropping, rates were higher. So I was getting into a time where a lot of people were heading out the door. But just through, grit and working night and day, weekends and everything, I was able to build a pretty good book of business. But I was working, 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and was pulling my hair out. We were doing well. We were closing, like 15 deals a month, which was pretty solid back then.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I can't imagine even doing more than this. I don't want to do more than this because there's no way I could work harder than I am right now. So it wasn't until 2012 when I went to a Todd Duncan Sales Mastery event. And that changed everything. Just seeing what other top producers were doing, the teams that they built. They were doing a lot less work than I was, having a lot more fun than I was, and producing a lot more. I saw like back then Jeremy Forcier,
Oh,
I know
yeah.
very well. He was on stage with Todd Duncan, and some of like the Rick Ruby and the core group was up there.
Sure.
Even Darren Hardy, who is a favorite author of mine, his book The Compound Effect is one of my favorites, and
Mm.
I work based off of that quite a bit. We could get into that later, but that event really changed everything because by 2012 I was just exhausted. And I just realized, I wasn't doing what I needed to do in terms of building a team, delegating a lot of the low value activities and focusing on the prospecting. And that's when everything changed and I was able to really grow a business instead of being working so much in the business.
Now, are you still at this time a retail loan officer?
Yes, I am. Yep,
And,
I started my own company 2 years ago, and it was the best decision we made. Actually, I love the company that I worked with. I'd worked with them since 2009. Was very loyal to them, but I was really starting to see, the difference between rates between the brokers and the other larger lenders out there because I was seeing this company being growing. They were hiring more managers, middle managers, sales managers, and at the same time, our rates were getting worse. And every time I would get shopped, I know I would lose the deal because our rates just weren't competitive. And I would see
sure.
these smaller brokerages that were really kind of beating me significantly. And I talked to my team. I still have my same team from that company. We transitioned over to the brokerage together. And that's when I kind of decided to make the move. It was April 2024 that we
Okay.
started. So yeah, so I went from that to a brokerage. So
You
yeah.
went retail to straight to broker owner. What was if I'm a loan officer listening today thinking about maybe I should make the switch? What would be two or three things of advice you would give them that you learned along the way of opening up your own shop and transitioning? 'Cause some people transition into a company and then open a company, but you went from company right into owning your own. What would be some advice you would give?
Yeah, I think first of all, having a great team is a big part of it. Having someone you trust right off the bat. I was fortunate to have two great team members who I still have, and they made the transition with me. That's
Mhm.
number one. Number two, just kind of having someone to kind of guide you through the transition. I have a company called MSource that I
Mm.
use, and they help me out with licensing, all the compliance things that I needed to do. And also having like a good operating system was huge. I highly recommend Arrive. That's the system I use, and I know you guys are heavily in it. And getting signed up with the right wholesale team as well, and finding kind of like the one or two partners that you really want to do the bulk of your business with. And for us, that was Windsor, and that's we really enjoyed our partnership with you guys. And that's probably the other advice I would give is just finding that one bank that you really know and trust that are going to get your deals closed, give you good rates, and communicate every step of the way. So that's an important part of the process as well.
Yep. But they helped you with thank you for that, by the way, but they helped you with call reports, licensing, like, they really handled it because they knew the process, they know how to guide you through it, and did you feel like they took a lot of the heavy lifting for you and while you could concentrate on getting this business up and going and originating loans in your name right away, or did you feel like there was quite a bit of stuff that you needed to do?
Yeah, there was still a lot of stuff that I needed to do. Kind of finding the right team members, like the, CPAs, people to help me kind of create the business.
Mhm.
But MSource, the company that I use for the licensing, they really do the majority of it. And it's the peace of mind of knowing that, I'm not sure exactly, all the compliance things that I needed to do or how to get licensed in all these states, how to sign up with these wholesale lenders. And they really walked me through that. So having a partner that guides you through it was really important, and they did that for me. So highly recommend finding a partnership like that before you get started. Because I was still working with my company for a couple of months before I fully made the transition. And they just really gave me that, 10-step process of what I needed to do. And all I did was just follow it. And then open the doors and you're ready to go and hit the ground running.
One of the questions I get asked all the time is that how do I start this company while I'm still at my other,
Yeah.
and and then get my licensing and being able to transition that in. Walk us through that journey, kind of the steps how you accomplish that.
I think having a great relationship with my old company was a big part of that, because as soon as I made the decision, I let them know that I was going to be making the transition, and I told them in 60 days I was planning on making the move. Most companies, they would maybe just cut you off right there and say, hey, we need you to leave now. We don't want you to be making that transition while you're still with us. But I basically told them, I was like, I'm going to help out with this transition. I know my production, it's going to be a loss, but if I could help bring other people through the door, if I could help kind of train some of the team about how I work and how I built my business. So that was really how I did it. Is I tried to let them know that I'm going to be making the transition and I'm here to help, try to make it as easy as I can for the company and the branch. But at the same time, you got to kind of carve out some nights and weekends to make sure that you're doing everything necessary. Because when I go from a federal, license to a brokerage, you got to start taking all the licensing tests and all the training and everything. That takes a lot of time. So you really just got to give yourself like a good 60 to 90 day time frame of what is needed to be done to make that transition, because you're going to be working a lot more hours while making that transition, because there's a lot to get up and running to do it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that your transparency and honesty, and I think they appreciated it. It
Hmm.
didn't feel weird. Everybody was on the uppity up, and it had to make that whole transition way smoother.
It very much did. Yes.
So you transfer, your whole team comes. What's your team look like, Ryan, today? And how do you kind of have this whole team structure? Because we've mentioned, and you mentioned that one of the biggest parts of your success, and especially in the beginning of starting, was a team. What's your team look like today, and how do you delegate out duties to each of your team members?
Yeah, I have a pretty small team actually. I just have two. I have a transaction coordinator and a processor. My processor is really the contract to close. As soon as we get a contract and I lock in a rate and disclose, she follows up on everything else, getting the disclosure signed, getting all the conditions in, getting it submitted through underwriting, and then to closing. My transaction coordinator kind of helps me out with all the other stuff on top of that. With once we get a pre-approval, collecting those conditions, reviewing them, getting them signed off on, doing some of our follow-ups. So that's what my team looks like right now. The only other team member that we're probably looking for down the road would be a little bit more of kind of a loan partner, kind of more of like my role in terms of, doing the initial application, reviewing and pre-approving. So I could focus more on prospecting, because I'm still doing a large part of that right now. But that's what my team looks like. We'll probably get to three, and I think that's going to be the sweet spot for us.
Yeah. So, are you taking the apps, doing the lock appointment, and then after you've gotten disclosures signed, are you turning that over to your transaction coordinator, or are you staying involved all the way to the end?
I do stay involved still. I don't completely let go. I mean, she's still doing the bulk of the follow-ups, conditions, the uploads, and working with closing and everything. But I'm
Sure.
still there. I still do the communication with the realtors, for instance, and I was a part of the core for a while with Rick Ruby, and I love the Tuesday updates. And calling the realtors on Tuesdays and calling them. That's actually after this call, I'm going to be doing that. I'll be doing 2 hours of outbound calls, doing those Tuesday update calls. So I'm still in it. I'm still, doing the communication, but the bulk of, the busy work is what my processor does.
I think the originator, Ryan, thinks that the Tuesday update calls are I'm updating this, but I feel like if you had the right mindset, you could look at it like I'm actually have the opportunity to look for referrals
Yeah.
within my Tuesday updates. If I do it right, it's not just an update. Like there are lots of little things that you are told throughout this day or these next 2 hours when you do it that have a lot of fruit for not only process and experience, but also referrals from both realtor and client. Are you doing a email template out for your Tuesday update and the phone call to your client, or is your processor handling the client for the Tuesday update and you handle realtors?
I'm doing the client and I'm doing the realtors as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. And here in Arizona, we have something called a loan status update. It's a document that has to be filled out.
Yes.
It's the state of Arizona format. It has check boxes on if you've received, the appraisal yet, if you've received a clear to close or the closing disclosure. So my transaction coordinator, she's the one who puts that together, and we send that out every Friday. So we let everybody know on every Tuesdays they'll get a call from me. Every Friday they'll get that loan status update. And every Monday, we typically will send out an email with just a realtor list of things that are missing, maybe the amendatory clause or an addendum that we're missing. So they're getting usually 3 contacts from us a week about the status of the loan.
So let's transition into the origination side. I know you've been well coached. You've spent some money investing in yourself, and what are you doing today? How many leads do you typically, so they can kind of get a feel? How many leads do you typically manage every month?
Boy, we're getting, and that's the thing. It's all about tracking right now. We're probably getting about 100 leads a month
Wow.
right now, is what we're averaging. And for me, it's just about that consistent daily action is what's important. It's not the fastest who wins; it's the one who slows down the least. Is something I've always said. So consistency is the key, and I've really built a system where it's 30 points is my goal every day before I leave, before I head out of the office and stop my days. I want to hit 30 points. And what that is, it's just something I kind of built where it's if I do like a referral source phone call, that's 1 point. If I do
Okay.
like a meeting, if I do a coffee, a lunch, or even like do like a short video or a podcast, that's 10 points. If I do an actual office visit, that's 10 points. If I do a lunch and learn, that's 15 points. So I just kind of built it that way, just
Mhm.
because if I do have a long time where I'm out of the office and doing lunch and learn, it's hard for me to make my calls, to come back and do those 15 calls or whatever. So it's kind of a system that I built. A lot of the times it's just a day full of outbound 30 calls, and I try to do 2 power hours a day, no matter what. What that is just 60 minutes of focused outbound calls. I turn off my email. I turn off all notifications and I just put my head down with my database and I make outbound calls for 2 hours. That's a majority of the time. That's how I get my 30 points. It's just 30 outbound calls during the power hours. So no matter what, every day, that's my goal. And you could probably see here, I actually have a chalkboard at my office that shows my production tracker, and I track that. I'm looking at it all day
Oh
to
yeah,
make
I see it.
to make sure I'm hitting those 30 points. And I also track our leads, our pre-approvals, and our new files as well. So, keeping track and keeping consistency is very important for me.
How'd you come up with the number 30 points? I love this. I actually have never heard the point system like this before. I think it's very creative, really, really good. And how'd you come up with this point system? And then two is how'd you come up with the number 30?
Yeah, it's just kind of taking a look at my business and the prospecting days when I know I've done everything I possibly could, to hit my production. That's where I hit 30. I was like, if I'm just making outbound calls, 30 contacts is usually where I need to be to hit the volume that I need to. And also if you're just kind of heading out of the office doing lunch and learns or doing coffees or even like little short podcasts, which I do quite often too. Those take up more of your time planning them and recording them. So I can't do as many calls when I'm doing that. That's why I kind of give those like 10 points. So it was just kind of a matter of balancing the day and knowing what I'm capable of and knowing what's required to hit the production levels that we want to.
I know I'm going to get asked, but so on your processor, are in order to get a processing fee, obviously that's got to be a separate company. Do you have a separate company for processing, or is this just an all-in-cart, all-included experience and process, and you just pick up that salary?
Yeah, I pick up the salary actually. Both my team members work for me. We don't contract out. And she's been with me for about 5 years right now. And my transaction coordinator's been with me for 9 years.
Okay.
and they're both W-2 employees with my company.
Yeah. Wow. What great tenure with both. So leads. You're getting 100 leads a month. Where do you feel like in today's market you're generating the most leads that you could help out originators listening to this podcast today to get to a lead goal, whatever their lead goal. If your lead goal is 30, great. It's 30. If Ryan's 100, if it's 200, doesn't matter the number. But obviously, you're having great success of attracting and getting leads. What's working for you today in lead generation?
Fortunately enough, being a originator for 17 years, a lot of our business, I'd say half of it right now, is our past clients. And I've been very consistent from the start doing past client follow-up.
Hmm.
I do yearly loan reviews calls on every anniversary. That's the first thing I do in my day is I do those yearly calls. I also do birthday texts. Obviously we have their birthdays, and so I send out a quick text message, just kind of wishing them a happy birthday. I also have every end of the year, I send out a little tearaway fridge calendar that they put on their refrigerator. We have about
Wait,
20.
people still stick them things up?
They love them. Absolutely. It's funny when I'm doing those yearly past client calls. I could say probably half of them when I actually have a conversation with them is like, hey, I look at you every morning when I'm opening my fridge. We have you guys right in the front of our refrigerator. And
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah, it's very interesting. About 20 years ago, I went to a networking event and there was a plumber who was very well known in the valley, did a significant amount of business. And he said his number one source of business were those calendars. So I'm like, oh, I might as well roll that out. And that's been big for me, believe it or not. And outside of that, I like to send out, I don't do many emails to my past client database, but when I do, it's always something pretty important. So they know when an email comes from me, it's not just some general generic email. It's something like, hey, this is something I need to read because it's important. For instance, I sent out one this year because of the war in Iran and how that was going to impact mortgage rates. So I just let them know, like, hey, rates are probably going to be going up with oil prices and inflation. This is what to be on the lookout for. And we had a very busy February and March because of that email and getting a lot of people coming in and refinancing before things went up. So that's probably a big part of our business. And the other part is realtors, obviously. I work with half of my business is real estate agents. And I say with them, when I'm prospecting for realtors, the biggest thing that I have learned is that real estate agents, they're not great with their database. They're not great with following up with leads. So
Mhm.
my thing is we're really good at that. I use Salesforce, I use Jungo,
Mhm.
and it's a great database, and I track every lead that I get from my realtors, and we always follow up with them. We call them at least 3 times. We'll send them some text messages and emails. And so when I'm doing my prospecting calls, it's usually me calling realtors I have relationships with, just saying, hey, John Doe, you referred me to 2 weeks ago. I've called them 3 times. I haven't been able to get in contact with them. How have you been with them? Most of the time, they would probably forgot. They're like, who? Oh,
Right.
shoot, what about that one? I'll give them a call. But it's you're a big valuable part of their team. Obviously, if you're going to be doing the following up, so that's a big part of my calls is just calling these leads and updating the agents on how far along we are with them. So that's been a big part of my business too. Is just your database is the heart of your business, and just keeping track of every lead, following up with them, and then of course updating your referral partner on it as well has been a big part of our business and why realtors like working with us because they know when they send someone our way, we're going to do everything we can to get that lead converted.
Yeah, you have a great lead conversion process, which I don't think a lot of loan officers have a great process for leads. And I could tell that you showing your process to your real estate agents it becomes an attractor. And they're like, if I'm going to send my leads anywhere, I might as well send them to Ryan because he's got a process, and then he's got the best chance to get me paid. Would you agree with that? And do
Yeah,
you show your process or walk through your process with the real estate agents? Because I feel like you do have a process.
I do. Yeah, yeah. Part of my database, I was able to print out a little lead report that shows like, hey, when did they refer us? How many times we've tried to reach out, and I'll send that to them whenever I get off the phone with them. I'm like, hey, I got a few updates on our leads, and I'll send them a list. And a
Ah,
lot of the times they're like, oh, well, wow, okay, I forgot about this person. I need to follow up with them too. And it amazes me, realtors that they're great prospectors. They're out there doing open houses, shaking hands, but in terms of really tracking their leads and following up with them, they're not.
What do you what are some things or goals that you want to implement in the second quarter that I know you got big goals. I know you're continuing to grow your business. We talked about adding one more teammate and kind of
Yeah.
like that particular position would be. But what are some goals that you're trying to implement here in the second quarter that would help you grow your business?
Yeah, I'm still in my business quite a bit, and I delegate quite a bit to my team. But yeah, as I mentioned, I think a loan partner who's kind of doing more of the work that I'm doing in terms of the apps, the reviews, sending out the pre-qualification letter, delegating more of that so I could really get out there and instead of maybe doing 30 points, I could do 60 points a day.
Oh,
And at that point, I know our business would probably double if I'm hitting that kind of activity. So, just doing everything I can to continue building my team, training them, and delegating as much as I can to them. That still allows me to reach out and build our business. Because a lot of my business right now is just maintaining.
mhm.
Like the first 2 years of us, starting our own company, it was just transitioning. It was like, hey, letting everybody know this is our new company, this is why we made the switch. This is what to expect from us. You'll get the same great service, better interest rates, and more products, more programs. So the first 2 years was really
Sure.
about making the transition and maintaining our database and our relationships. And now it's going to be really about kind of growing our brand and continuing to prospect to build our business.
Are you going to hire additional LOs underneath you, or are you going to stay as the Ryan team?
We're going to stay as just myself as being the producer. Yeah, that's correct. We don't have any plans to really hire other loan officers right now. That could change in the future. But right now, it's just kind of building our team and building our systems and building our business. And once we kind of get that blueprint of exactly how things are working and working well, we can maybe plug in other loan officers into that system down the road.
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like a lot of broker owners try to convert to hiring LOs too soon. Then
Mhm.
it affects their personal business, which then it affects their income, and it's just a spiral of results that turns out not that good.
Yeah, you got to get the foundation built first, obviously. And once you built a great foundation and your business is consistent, which ours is, but that's when it's time to maybe hire more. That's correct.
What are you excited about this year besides lower interest rates?
Looking forward to lower interest rates, definitely. Yeah, but no, I'm excited because the market's still great. Even though we are a little bit higher on rates right now, I think there's a lot of pent up purchase demand out there, and we're seeing a little bit more inventory. So we're seeing more and more buyers kind of getting off the fence right now. So I'm very optimistic about how the market's going to be this year and continue to be strong. Regardless of rates being a little bit higher than we hoped at this time.
I get asked all the time about what are loan officers using in the AI world that's actually working.
Mhm.
How about you? Addie's come about. Russell Petty's amazing programs is something really, really cool. Are you using any AI technologies today inside your business? And if so, what is it, and what have you learned?
Yeah, we're using Claude a little bit in terms of just kind of brainstorming files a little bit in terms of guidelines. It's a great
Mm,
tool, for reviewing guidelines and kind of brainstorming about how to get deals done. But at the same time, it's the technology you could build just through the coding process. We're building a really great online mortgage calculator. It
mm.
was very hard to find a good one actually, and the one that we've used was built by someone else, and it's kind of buggy, but what I'm using AI for right now is just building like a great calculator for my realtors because they're kind of missing that. They're still reaching out to me quite often to get quotes for their clients. And if I could build something that they could just plug in the address and it'll show them what a VA payment would be, a conventional payment, it's actually quite easy to build through Claude, and we're going to be rolling that out very soon. So that's one of the things that we're focusing on right now is building that calculator, which we've always wanted and dreamed of, but never had out there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's gonna be cool. I've seen a couple people, work on that or develop it and then sell it, but you're gonna have your own internal done,
Yeah.
that you will own. So obviously in the long run, that should be way cheaper. Um, as we get ready to close, what advice would you give somebody sitting in a retail shop today that is thinking about being a broker? What would you say to them to push them over the edge?
It was the best transition that we've made, really, and just kind of having full, complete control over your team and your company, and the systems that you're rolling out, your processes, and just finding great partners to work with in terms of the service and the programs and the products available. That's huge. I'm just saying right off the bat, it was a great move, and we're very glad we did it. A lot of people, when I told them I was making a move, they said, "You're going to wish you did it sooner." And that was the only regret I have, is I didn't do it sooner. But yeah, so I would just say, in terms of building your business after you've made that transition, just remember, speed in this business is really what wins. Being quick to answer, quick to close, quick to pre-approve, focusing on what you and your team can do to be faster. In this world of Amazon and same day deliveries, people are expecting answers quick, and they expect
Yeah.
you to answer, and they expect you to close and get you a pre-approval fast. So building a team and building a system where you can be quick, that's a great way to quickly build your business, is just being known as the one who's on top of things. So that's
That's
another a bit of advice I would give. Another one would be knowing your guidelines.
hmm,
Every morning, I'm a pretty early riser. I get up at 4 a.m. I work out, and I'm usually in the office around 7, between 7 and 8, before I really start making my calls.
okay.
Really spending a lot of time knowing guidelines, knowing products, knowing programs. When you make the transition into a brokerage, you go from maybe having just one company, one group of products, to having dozens.
Yeah.
So it can be overwhelming for a bit, just knowing all the different unique programs that are out there, who does what best, and who has different guidelines, who goes down to a 600, who goes down to a 500 credit score, whatever. So really just kind of making sure that you're devoting time every day to really studying and knowing your products, knowing your programs, because especially when realtors give you a call and they have a scenario, they want you to be Johnny on the spot. When they
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I have an investment property. How much seller paid closing costs can I ask for?" They don't want to hear you type in or looking it up on your phone and be like, "Oh, 2%. That's the max you could do." So they're always testing you, and they're going to want to know that you know what you're doing. And if you show your confidence, and that confidence is built through your knowledge, there's just knowing your guidelines, knowing your programs, knowing what underwriters look for, and knowing how to get people approved. That's one of my biggest pieces of advice, is really taking time to educate yourself every day.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Ryan, thanks for being on Coaching with Chris. I truly appreciate it. I'm love watching your little path here, seeing you win the award at NAM, watching your growth even into this year, and then watching the third person get to see this here come soon, and then your what you're investing inside your team. Tom Brady told they did an interview the other day of Tom Brady, and they're talking about his morning routine. And he's like, many people just don't invest in themselves enough. He goes, but I have found the more I invest in myself, the rate of return was crazy, like 400%.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, that's why I played in the NFL longer than anyone. And that truly paid off. And I see the same in you. You're investing in yourself, investing in this team, whether it's time or money, effort. 100 leads is absolutely amazing. But the best part about you is how you lead. Authentic, real, honesty, upfront. That's what I really like about you, Ryan. And I can't wait to watch this next few years and see your growth pattern. I know it's going to be great.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you for the kind words, and we're excited to continue our partnership with Windsor and continue our success together. Thank you.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this episode, Coaching with Chris, make sure you like and share this episode. If you need to, you want to reach out, you're like, what did Ryan say? Or how'd that point system? I'm sure you can find Ryan pretty easy, and he would love to be able to share that with you. Thanks again. And thanks, Ryan, for being on Coaching with Chris.
Thanks, Chris.